Welcome to episode 15 of Workers' Comp Unwrapped with Max. Meet Aisha, who has 15 years of experience in the workers' comp industry. And today we're talking about clock is ticking, the critical role of timely second bill reviews in healthcare revenue.
Thanks for having me.
You might be thinking, SBRs sounds kind of dry. But trust me, getting paid what you deserve is anything but dry. Think of SBRs as your secret weapon against those initial lowball payments from insurance payers.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's your formal request for reconsideration when that first payment just doesn't add up.
So let's break this down for our listeners who might not be super familiar with the process. What exactly is SBR?
It's your chance to push back and say, hey, wait a minute, that's not right, and really fight for that full payment you deserve.
And we all know that in California's workers' comp system, timing is everything when it comes to SBRs, right? Miss a deadline, and you could be kissing that money goodbye.
Oh, you're not kidding. California has a strict 90-day deadline for submitting those SBRs, and that clock starts ticking the moment you get that explanation of review.
The EOR.
Right, and if you miss that window, well, you've lost your right to challenge the payment amount, no exceptions. It's like missing a court date, you don't get a do-over.
So, no pressure, right. But seriously, why are timely SBRs so crucial? What's the worst that could happen if we're a little late?
Okay, so let's say you've given a patient top-notch care, right? And you've submitted a bill for, let's say, $4,500, but the insurance company only coughs up $2,000, claiming the procedure wasn't medically necessary.
Oh, wow, that's a huge discrepancy.
It is. And a timely SBR gives you that chance to really make your case, show them the documentation they missed, and potentially get that $2,500 back.
It's more than just a financial hit, isn't it? It's about making sure you're properly compensated for your skill and the services that you provide.
Exactly.
So let's dive into the nitty-gritty of what happens when those SBR deadlines whoosh by. What are the real risks here?
Well, first off, delayed payments. Insurance companies won't even glance at your claim without a timely SBR. Money is basically in limbo until you get things filed correctly.
That's a chilling thought, especially for smaller practices where every dollar makes a difference.
Absolutely. And the impact goes beyond those immediate finances, Missed SBR deadlines can also lead to claims being flat out denied.
Even if the original claim was completely legitimate.
Even then, small discrepancies in your initial billing can get locked in without a timely SBR. It's like a typo on a contract, a small mistake with huge consequences.
So it's not just about getting paid what you're owed, it's also about protecting yourself from future headaches.
Precisely. And then there's the revenue loss. The American Medical Billing Association found that a whopping 21% of revenue loss in medical practices is due to preventable billing errors, with missed SBR deadlines being a major culprit.
Wow, 21%. That's a serious chunk of change.
It is, and it's not just about the lost income either. Think about the administrative strain. Instead of focusing on patient care, your staff is chasing down payments that should have been secured with a timely SBR.
Yeah, it's a domino effect. One missed deadline can throw the whole practice into chaos.
You got it.
So we've established that timely SBRs are like that golden ticket, but why do providers struggle with them so much? It's not exactly a walk in the park, is it?
Definitely not. There are a few reasons why providers might trip up on those timely SBR submissions.
Okay, so let's unpack those. What's the first hurdle most practices face?
Administrative barriers, things like messy workflows, not keeping track of EOR dates, or even just not recognizing when an SBR is needed. Paperwork piles up and deadlines slip through the cracks.
Yeah, it's understandable how that happens, especially in a busy practice.
Exactly. Then there's the issue of staff training. Filing an SBR isn't just about hitting resend on the bill. It requires a deep understanding of workers' comp rules, coding, and what each specific payer wants.
So even with the best intentions, a lack of knowledge can really throw a wrench in the works.
Absolutely. Without proper training, staff might be sending out incorrect SBRs even if they're on time, which can be just as bad as missing the deadline.
So investing in training is key.
Couldn't agree more. And then we have technology gaps. Outdated billing software or manual processes make it incredibly difficult to stay on top of deadlines, comply with regulations, and manage all those documents effectively.
It's like trying to run a marathon in flip-flops. You need the right equipment to succeed.
Exactly. Without the right tech, you're just setting yourself up for unnecessary stress and potential financial losses.
So let's say we've spotted some of these red flags in our own practice. What are the first steps toward getting those SBRs filed, like a well-oiled machine?
The foundation is awareness. You and your team need to really grasp the importance of timely SBRs and what's at stake if you miss those deadlines.
Right, knowledge is power. But how do we make those SBRs happen on time and without errors? What does that look like in practice?
That's where a clear step-by-step process becomes your best friend. It's like having a GPS for navigating the SBR world.
Okay, I'm all about a good GPS.
Mhm.
Walk me through it. What's step one?
Step one is to really dissect that EOR. Don't just skim it. Look for any discrepancies between your bill and what they actually paid. Pay attention to the reasons for adjustments and highlight the items that you're disputing.
So we're playing detective, looking for clues that we might be getting shortchanged.
Exactly. And mark the date you received the EOR because that 90-day clock is already ticking.
Noted. What's next?
Step two, gather your ammunition, collect all the documents you need to build your case, the original bill, a copy of the EOR, medical records that justify the services, any pre-authorization approvals, and every piece of communication with the insurer.
It sounds like we're building a case, just like a lawyer would for a trial.
Precisely. The more evidence you have, the stronger your position will be when you challenge that initial payment.
Makes sense with step three.
Step three is where you make it official. You complete the SBR form, which is specific to California's Division of Workers' Compensation. Make sure you include all the essential info, your details, the patient's details, and the specific line items you're disputing with a clear explanation of why.
No cutting corners here. We need to be thorough and accurate.
Absolutely. The clearer and more concise your explanation, the easier it will be for the insurer to understand your claim and hopefully see things your way.
Okay, we've got our form filled out, our evidence assembled. What's the final step?
Step four is all about submission and follow-up. Get that SBR submitted within that 90-day window and make sure you have proof of delivery, whether it's certified mail or electronic submission.
Proof of timely submission is crucial, but what about follow-up? Do we just assume everything's running smoothly?
Don't just sit back and relax. Keep an eye on the pair's response and be ready to address any additional requests promptly.
So we're staying proactive and making sure our claim doesn't get lost in the shuffle.
Exactly. You want to be in control and ensure your claim gets the attention it deserves.
Okay, we've got our step-by-step roadmap, but I think it would be helpful to see this in action. What are some real-world examples that illustrate the difference between a timely SBR and one that arrives fashionably late?
Great idea. Let's look at some case studies that highlight the real-world impact of timely versus untimely SBRs.
I'm all ears.
First up, a success story. An orthopedic clinic filed their SBR right on time and managed to recover a substantial portion of an underpayment. They had their documentation in order, presented a strong case, and the insurer reconsidered their initial decision.
So they followed the playbook and it paid off.
Precisely. They understood the process, they were organized, and they didn't let that 90-day deadline slip by. As a result, they rescued a significant amount of revenue.
That's encouraging, but I'm guessing you also have a case study where things didn't go so smoothly.
Unfortunately, yes. In our second case study, a pain management specialist missed the SBR deadline by just 10 days and had to write off a large sum as lost revenue.
10 days. He's got a sting.
It does, and it underscores how crucial it is to have systems in place to track those deadlines and ensure timely submissions. In this case, a simple reminder system could have prevented a costly mistake.
A little organization goes a long way. These case studies are a great reality check. They show just how much of a financial impact timely SBRs can have.
They do, and I hope they inspire providers to take the SBR process seriously and implement strategies to protect their hard-earned income.
Speaking of strategies, let's talk about what's on the horizon for SBRs. Are there any trends or technologies that can make this whole process easier in the future?
Absolutely. The world of medical billing is constantly evolving, and there are exciting developments that can streamline the SBR process and minimize the risk of errors.
Give us a sneak peek. What's coming down the pipeline?
One of the biggest game changers is automation. Imagine billing systems that automatically flag claims needing SBRs, send you deadline reminders, and even pre-fill those forms for you.
It's like having a tireless robot working behind the scenes to keep your billing on track. They can flag claims that need SBRs, send deadline reminders, and even pre-fill forms.
Exactly. And automation is just the tip of the iceberg. Data analytics can also play a huge role in optimizing your SBR process.
So we're talking about using data to uncover patterns in claim denials and using that information to improve our billing practices.
Precisely. By analyzing your data, you can pinpoint specific areas where you're consistently being underpaid or denied. Maybe it's a particular CPT code, a certain type of procedure, or even a specific insurance payer. Once you know where the problems are, you can start addressing them.
It's like being a detective. But instead of solving crimes, we're solving billing mysteries.
I love that analogy. The more you dig into your data, the better you'll understand the nuances of workers' comp billing and what strategies work best for your practice.
So we've got workflow optimization, automation, and data analytics in our toolkit. Are there any other secret weapons we can use to boost our SBR success?
Absolutely. Investing in staff training is another critical piece of the puzzle. Remember, filing an SBR isn't as simple as hitting reason on the bill. It requires a deep understanding of workers' comp regulations, coding guidelines, and the specific requirements of each payer.
Right. Without proper training, our staff might be making costly mistakes without even realizing it.
Exactly. By giving your billing team comprehensive training on the SBR process, you're empowering them to submit accurate, compliant, and well-supported claims, which can make all the difference in getting paid what you deserve.
So we're investing in our staff's knowledge and skills to unlock our full revenue potential. What else should providers be thinking about when it comes to SBRs?
One thing that often gets overlooked is the importance of building strong relationships with insurance payers. It's easy to see them as the enemy, but fostering open communication and a collaborative approach can actually make the SBR process much smoother.
Instead of fighting each other, we're working together to find solutions. But how do we build these relationships?
It starts with understanding the payer's perspective. They have their own rules, regulations, and internal processes that we need to be aware of. By familiarizing ourselves with their guidelines and communicating clearly and respectfully, we can build a more positive and productive working relationship.
So we're doing our homework, being proactive, and communicating effectively. That sounds like a recipe for success in any area of business, not just SBRs.
You're absolutely right. Building relationships takes time and effort, but the payoff can be huge in terms of faster processing times, fewer denials, and smoother billing operations overall.
We've covered a lot of ground here. We've got strategies for workflow optimization, automation, data analysis, staff training, and building payer relationships. If we had to sum it all up in one key takeaway, what would it be?
Be proactive. Don't wait for problems to pop up before you take action. By implementing these strategies and staying ahead of the curve, you can transform your SBR process from a source of frustration into a powerful tool for maximizing revenue and ensuring the financial health of your practice.
I love that. Proactive, not reactive. That's a great mantra for any aspect of running a successful practice.
Absolutely. Workers' comp billing is complex and constantly evolving. But with the right knowledge, tools, and strategies, you can navigate it successfully and ensure you're getting every dollar you've earned.
This has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. I feel like we've really demystified the SBR process and given providers practical tools they can use right away.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm always passionate about sharing insights that can help providers thrive.
And for our listeners, we hope this episode has given you a clearer understanding of how to optimize your SBR process and boost your revenue.
Remember, taking control of your SBRs means taking control of your financial future.
And on that note, we'll wrap up part 1 of our deep dive. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into specific strategies for optimizing your SBR process and steering clear of those common pitfalls that can trip you up.
So we've talked about why timely SBRs are so important and how technology is changing the billing landscape. But let's get down to brass tacks. What can providers actually do, like today, to make their SBR process more efficient?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. I think a lot of providers listening might be feeling a little overwhelmed with all this. Where do we even begin?
Well, the good news is even small changes can make a big difference. One of the simplest but most effective strategies is to just set up a clear system for handling those EORs.
Okay, so we're talking about creating a process that ensures that no EOR gets lost in the shuffle and every potential SBR opportunity is captured, right?
Exactly. This could involve, designating a specific staff member as the SBR point person, someone who's responsible for reviewing EORs, tracking deadlines, and kicking off that whole SBR process.
Like it, having a dedicated SBR expert who keeps everything running smoothly. What else can we do to streamline things?
Well, leveraging technology to automate as much as possible is it's a game changer. We touched on those automated billing systems earlier, but it's worth emphasizing just how much time and hassle they can really save.
Yeah, those systems are like having a tireless robot working behind the scenes to keep your billing on track. They can flag claims that need SBRs, send those deadline reminders, and even pre-fill those forms.
Exactly, and automation is just the tip of the iceberg. Data analytics can also play a huge role in optimizing your SBR process.
So we're talking about using data to uncover patterns and claim denials and using that information to, really improve our billing practices.
Precisely. By analyzing your data, you can pinpoint specific areas where you're consistently being underpaid or denied. Maybe it's a particular CPT code or a certain type of procedure or even a specific insurance payer. Once you know where the problems are, you can start addressing them.
It's like being a detective, but instead of solving crimes, we're solving billing mysteries.
I love that analogy. The more you dig into your data, the better you'll understand those nuances of workers' comp billing and what strategies work best for your practice.
Okay, so we've got workflow optimization, automation, and data analytics in our toolkit. Are there any other secret weapons that we can use to boost our SBR success?
Absolutely. Investing in staff training is another critical piece of the puzzle. Remember, filing an SBR isn't as simple as hitting rescind on the bill. It requires a deep understanding of those workers' comp regulations, those coding guidelines, and the specific requirements of each pair.
Right. Without proper training, our staff might be making costly mistakes without even realizing it.
Exactly. By giving your billing team comprehensive training on that SBR process, you're empowering them to submit accurate, compliant, and well-supported claims, which can make all the difference in getting paid what you deserve.
So we're investing in our staff's knowledge and skills to unlock our full revenue potential. What else should providers be thinking about when it comes to SBRs?
Well, one thing that often gets overlooked is the importance of building strong relationships with insurance payers. It's easy to see them as, the enemy, but fostering open communication and a collaborative approach can actually make that SBR process much smoother.
So instead of fighting each other, we're working together to find solutions. But how do we actually build these relationships?
It starts with understanding the payer's perspective. They have their own rules, regulations, and internal processes that we need to be aware of. By familiarizing ourselves with their guidelines and communicating clearly and respectfully, we can build a more positive and productive working relationship.
So we're doing our homework, being proactive, and communicating effectively. That sounds like a recipe for success in any area of business, not just SBRs.
You're absolutely right. Building relationships takes time and effort, but the payoff can be huge in terms of faster processing times, fewer denials, and smoother billing operations overall.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got strategies for workflow optimization, automation, data analysis, staff training, and building those payer relationships. If we had to sum it all up in one key takeaway, what would it be?
Be proactive. Don't wait for problems to pop up before you take action. By implementing these strategies and staying ahead of the curve, you can transform your SBR process from, a source of frustration into a powerful tool for maximizing revenue and ensuring the financial health of your practice.
I love that. Proactive, not reactive. That's a great mantra for any aspect of running a successful practice.
Absolutely. Workers' comp billing is complex and constantly evolving, but with the right knowledge, tools, and strategies, you can navigate it successfully and ensure you're getting every dollar that you've earned.
This has been an incredibly enlightening conversation. I feel like we've really demystified the SBR process and given providers practical tools that they can use right away.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm always passionate about sharing insights that can help providers thrive.
And for our listeners, we hope this episode has given you a clear understanding of how to optimize your SBR process and boost your revenue.
Remember, taking control of your SBRs means taking control of your financial future.
But on that note, we'll wrap up part 2 of our deep dive. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll tackle some common SBR pitfalls and share expert tips for avoiding those traps that can trip you up. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about why timely SBRs are so important, how to actually optimize that process, and what exciting technological advancements are on the horizon. But before we wrap up, let's talk about those pesky pitfalls that can trip up even the most well-prepared provider.
Yeah, you're right. Even with the best intentions, providers can make mistakes that lead to, delays, denials, and ultimately lost revenue.
So let's shine a light on those pitfalls and discuss how to avoid them. What's the first trap that we need to watch out for?
Well, one of the most common mistakes is failing to really scrutinize that EOR. Remember, the EOR is like a map. It reveals why you were paid less than you billed.
Yeah, it's like a detective's case file, holding all the clues we need to unlock our full reimbursement.
Exactly. But too often, providers give the EOR like a quick glance. without really digging into those details. They miss crucial information about adjustments, coding discrepancies, or those payer-specific rules that can impact their SBR.
So we get to put on our detective hats and carefully examine every line item, every code, every notation on that EOR. What else should we be on the lookout for?
Another common pitfall is insufficient documentation. Remember, an SBR is essentially an appeal. You're asking the insurer to reconsider their initial decision. And to do that, you need compelling evidence to support your case.
Yeah, we need to present a rock-solid argument, just like a lawyer would in court.
Exactly. But many SBRs are submitted with minimal documentation or with documents that are, incomplete or disorganized. It's like showing up to court without any witnesses or evidence.
So what constitutes compelling evidence in the world of SBRs? Like, what kind of documents should we be gathering?
Well, it varies depending on the claim and the reason for the underpayment or denial, but in general, you'll want to include the original bill, a copy of the EOR, medical records that clearly justify the services provided, any pre-authorization approvals, and all relevant correspondence with the insurer.
We're building a bulletproof case file that leaves no room for doubt.
Precisely. The more thorough and organized your documentation, the stronger your case will be. And remember, clear and concise documentation is key. Make it easy for the insurer to understand your claim and why you're disputing their decision.
Great advice. What other traps should providers be aware of?
Well, missing deadlines is another major pitfall. We've talked about how crucial timely SBR submissions are, but it bears repeating, In California, you have just 90 days from the date of that EOR to file your SBR. Miss that deadline, and you've lost your chance to appeal.
That 90-day window is non-negotiable. What can providers do to make sure they never miss a deadline?
The most effective solution is to set up a really reliable tracking system. This could be as simple as a spreadsheet or a calendar where you just meticulously record those EOR dates and SBR deadlines. But ideally, you'd use a more sophisticated system like an automated billing platform that can actually send those automatic reminders and alerts.
Right, technology can be a lifesaver when it comes to staying on top of those deadlines. Are there any other mistakes that providers might be making during the SBR submission process itself?
Absolutely. One common error is using the wrong SBR form or submitting an incomplete form. Each state has its own specific SBR form, and using the wrong one or omitting required information can lead to delays or rejections.
Attention to detail is crucial here. We need to double-check that we're using the right forms, filling them out completely, and following all the instructions.
Exactly. It's also crucial to double-check your calculations and make sure the amounts you're disputing are accurate. Even a small math error can damage your credibility and slow down the processing of your claim.
Okay, so we're being meticulous, detail-oriented, and maybe even breaking out the calculator for those crucial calculations. Any other words of wisdom before we wrap up this discussion on pitfalls?
Yeah, one final tip, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the SBR process, or if you're dealing with, particularly complex or challenging denials, consider consulting with a billing specialist or an attorney who specializes in workers' comp billing.
Yeah, sometimes it's wise to bring in reinforcements, especially when there's, a lot of money at stake.
Absolutely. Remember, you don't have to go it alone. There are resources available to help you navigate those intricacies of workers' comp billing and maximize your revenue.
That's a great point to end on, Aisha. Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into the world of SBRs. I think our listeners have gained invaluable insights today.
It's been my pleasure. I'm always happy to share my knowledge and help providers succeed.
And for our listeners, remember that timely and accurate SBRs are essential for safeguarding your financial well-being and ensuring you're compensated fairly for the vital services you provide.
Yeah, don't let those hard-earned dollars slip through the cracks. Master the SBR process and you'll be well on your way to maximizing your revenue and building a thriving practice.
And that concludes our deep dive into second bill reviews. We hope you found this episode informative and empowering. We'll catch you next time on Workers' Comp Unwrapped.